Hi everybody. CJ's Fish Room, and we're back on this series that I'm creating. I'm teaching people little things by giving them kind of pointers, more or less, on different topics of how to do things, as well as giving them kind of what I do to get success. The main thing you want to do when it comes to this one is you want to basically have this kind of effect, because there's actually one way that's very easy to breed the corydoras, which is quite simple. The main thing you want to do is, when you're feeding them, you take a handful of flake and you actually crush it up a bit so it's small enough. Put your hand into the tank around here with that big kind of pinch, and you go like this in the water and let it fall down to the bottom so it will actually get to them. The minute they actually have it at the bottom of their tank and they start feasting, you do that for a few days, and you make sure that they actually have a fairly sparing amount of food. That way they actually believe that it's a prosperous kind of summery. Then what you want to do, if your tank already hasn't been through it, is you want to actually take their aquarium water and you want to actually empty it about to there, which is like the halfway mark, and you want to fill it up with water that's a bit cooler than their normal water. Not too cool, but pretty much almost the equivalent of a rainfall from the Amazon, which is about pretty much almost like a Canadian rainfall, a little warmer but not by much. And that will actually stimulate a rain season in the Amazon, and they'll actually look at it as a fact that it's actually raining, and they'll start spawning. When they start spawning, what you're going to want to look for is to see them doing the T position. T position is a kind of way of actually copulating with the female and creating their very own kind of breeding chain, so to speak. With these guys, what they'll want to do is, this little guy will present himself to the female, and the female in mid-swim will actually end up sucking on him, while his pectoral fin will be clamped down on her mouth to keep her mouth there while he's ejaculating in her mouth. Yes, he actually ejaculates in her mouth. She actually ingests the semen or spermatozoa, and that actually goes through her intestinal tract, through digestive, and all the way to her anus, or opening for where she's got eggs. But with her, when he's doing that, she actually starts laying eggs and clamping them with her back fins, and takes a break and ingests that semen and pushes it through her system to fertilize the eggs. And then she starts swimming around looking for a spot, uses her mouth to clean the spot, and then starts actually plastering the eggs anywhere from the glass to ornaments to on the filter, like that sponge filter, or on the line to the sponge filter, or she'll sometimes put it on the hatchery itself, or she'll swim all the way over here and find another wall to plaster her eggs. She'll pretty much put them almost anywhere in the tank. So you gotta kind of keep an eye out on where she's actually laying her eggs and how many there are, because your chances are you're gonna have a pretty good batch of eggs coming from her, because they can lay up to 400 eggs. It's never been seen by one corydora, but when you're dealing with a corydora shoal or a school of corydoras, you're dealing with a lot of them. And with these guys, they can go, and they can breed like wildfire. And their babies actually somewhat look like the ones in here. They look like these guys. These little tiny tadpole looking swimmers, or as some people would refer to them, wigglers, are actually their fry that have hatched. It takes about 8 days to 2 weeks for them to hatch, and when they do, they look like little wigglers, little black squiggling fish fry. And as they get older, at about 2 to 3 months, they start slowly taking on the characteristics of the fish. And that's the father of the fish. There's another one in here that's the other father. And the mothers are all the way back there. Those are the mothers. The way you can actually differentiate a male from a female corydora is the fact that female corydoras look like that. If you can look carefully, I'll see if I can zoom for you. That's a female corydora. Look at the size difference. Those are females. They're bigger. And they have a rounder head, and they tend to be kind of short and kind of round. Those are our females. They're actually that size, the females. And the male looks like that. Not that big, just a little fella. He's very small compared to them. So that's how you can tell them apart, more or less, is the female tends to be more rounder, more pronounced, while the male tends to be skinnier. You know, they tend to look like that, but with color. That's actually a male albino. That's what a male looks like. And a female looks like that. You know, they're big. They tend to be like this, kind of. They tend to be a lot rounder. And they tend to be very big. You know, they're like really round, completely. And they tend to be bigger than the males. The males tend to be skinnier, you know, less pronounced in roundness, more slender, more longer. While the females tend to be short and kind of round, you know, a little bigger in that sense. But they're very, very loving. But they do eat their babies just like guppies and other live bearers and egg layers. So when you breed them, you have to be pretty quick to actually round up their eggs while they're still laying somewhat, but discreet enough that you're not disturbing their breeding. So yeah, they tend to be pretty big as females. That's a female. It's bigger than the male. They tend to be that size. That's a female corydora. The males, not so much. They're not big at all. They're actually pretty scrawny looking. They're very small. I've seen a lot bigger. And they vary in size. Some actually stay a bit smaller than others. Some tend to get a little more rounder, but not by much. It's pretty much like this guy. That's pretty much the male. It's like that way. Another way you can tell the female from the male is actually by their fins. It's another way you can tell them apart, because the male fins tend to be more rounded off, while the females are more like triangle. You know, they're more kind of pronounced, so to speak. You can definitely tell the difference because their fins, if you look at them, they're a lot different. Their back fins tend to be more there, plus the dorsal itself. Males are more up like a sail fin, and the females is more laid back, kind of like a marlin type fish. You can see the difference right there. Male fin, female's fin. You can see it's more like kind of a lot less pointed and more like a kind of open sail sort of. And you can see that their fins are different in a way, because their back fins at the very back tend to be a lot more kind of pronounced. Well, the males is just as pronounced, but a little different, you know. But that's one way you can tell them. But they're pretty much a very avid breeder, and on top of that, they tend to be very easily coaxed if you have the right environment for them. And they make a great addition to any aquarium. I've been breeding them for a few years now, and they make great babies, and their babies are very healthy usually, but to some it's a little tricky to breed them because, you know, there's different tricks to the trait, more or less. My trick I like to do is you give them a different diet. Like sometimes I'll put like little things. One hint that really works very extremely well if you want to really breed them and you don't have fish flake or shrimp pellets, you can actually use a plant weight and Tuaflex worm cubes. You take the cube and you wrap a plant weight around it, put it at the bottom, and let them eat at it. That will actually induce breeding easily. Another way would be if you actually take and put the flake and the pellets together, and you count how many you have, give them 2 pellets, that's 2 of them per fish, plus a fat pinch of flake. That will give them a prosperous diet. They'll get their meat and they'll get their flake that's like a vegetative, and it will actually help them. I've used different types for their own shrimp pellets. I've used Wardley's, which is not the greatest, but if you're on a budget, it's kind of cheaper. I've used Omega-1, which aren't bad, but they don't sink as quick. You know, they're very hardy, but they're also not really the greatest when it comes to a sinking kind of pellet. It's good for them, but it does not sink very fast. It takes time. Another thing you can feed them is spinach and peas. You can feed those to them. They actually don't mind them as much. I've been feeding them little things here and there. Sometimes you can even like use the algae off the glass a bit to substitute their vegetative diet. It's not always the best, but it can sometimes get you through things. Or if you have like the knowledge of how to cultivate stuff, you could use infusoria or other stuff as well to feed their diet, but they usually need a very specific diet. They need to have it balanced out between their vegetation and their meat. So that's the keys to breeding them. And I hope you enjoyed this series. And next series we do will be kind of on live bearers and the right ratio to them, as well as little tricks to get them very easily bred. It's not very hard, but it takes a lot of patience and a skillful eye. So keep rocking this fish world and keep watching for more videos coming soon. And if you have any suggestions, comment below. Like, subscribe, share this, let everybody know. CJ's Fish Room, Ottawa, Ontario is new kid on the block that is pretty much good at making fish breed, as well as occasionally when there's a good stock of them, I actually do sell some. So if you're on Facebook, facebook.com, head of the fish room, or head of CJ's Fish Room, I think. Anyways, you can find me on Facebook as CJ's Fish Room. I'm on there, and I do have messages that can come through there to me, and I do reply when I can. And I enjoy actually getting some comments. I enjoy hearing from people that enjoy the videos, and yeah, keep enjoying it. It's really cool. Catch you later.